to the metal, go, go, go!
Good evening, everyone, and welcome along to the PSGL Esports Cup event. We are here for round 6 of the championship as we take in the British Grand Prix from the Silverstone International Circuit. My name is James Head. I am back after a 3-week layoff, of course, with the break week last week. Evan Dalton, of course, for me last time we came here, of course, in Belgium. Joining me in the commentary box, though, as always, it is Mr. Aidan Carter, otherwise known as Comments List. And Aidan, how are you doing tonight?
Doing really well, thank you. Just enjoyed a lovely qualifying session in real life at Brazil. Now jumping in to hopefully see another great event for PSGL. And yeah, like I said, good to be back alongside you again after a 3 weeks absence. So back to our usual programming.
It is. I feel like I've been socially distant for the last 3 weeks, if I've got to be honest, with nothing to do on a Friday night. We are going to get straight into things, of course. We are short of time. So, to take us through a lap of the British Grand Prix circuit, it is Mr. Evan Dalton. Evan, take it away.
Hello everybody and welcome back to the PSGL Esports Cup. We're here for a hot lap around Silverstone. We're on board with the Alpine heading down towards turn 1. It is flat in qualifying and flat for most of the race, apart from maybe if you are on old tyres. Flat out second corner and third corner is when you do reach a braking zone. Downshift to third gear and just about keep traction down. Downshift to second gear, short shift up the gears and make sure you get the best exit possible heading onto the Wellington Straight. Activate the DRS and get the best run as you can down towards the loop. One of the most important corners on the circuit, of course, you brake just after the 50-metre board and take a bit of the inside curb. Great overtaking opportunity. If it's the inside or the outside, you can find a way. Bit of curb on exit and hook to the right hand side down the old finish straight. Comes corner is the next corner, and of course we all know that one well after a very controversial incident in the real F1. Almost flat. You do downshift to seventh gear, but it is almost flat as you head in to the famous Maggots, Beckett's and Chapel curve. Take a bit of curb and just hope the car sticks the traction onto the hanger straight now. Heading just under the bridge, reaching well over 300 kilometers an hour now. Silverstone, a really flat out circuit, heading into Stowe Corner. Downshift to 6th gear. It's a long right. Be careful not to bottom in on the outside into the road chicane. Braking just before the 50-metre board. Avoid the red curbs on the inside. Now final corner at Club. 5th gear, 6th gear, wide line and across the line for a lap of the famous Silverstone circuit.
Well, that was a fantastic hot lap there, of course, by Mr. Evan Dalton, taking us through, of course, the British Grand Prix circuit at the Silverstone International Circuit. Of course, let us have a look then at the standings, of course, coming into tonight. And I just need to load them up on my screen. You'll probably see them before I actually get to them. It is Visceral Esports, I should say, who lead the way, 242 points. Outplayed Racing in second on 167. WR in third on 118. FEL fourth on 106. Then Chazoo, IFR Team Mentalism, TTG, TF10 and ET8, all top 10 teams, of course, scoring points. And Visceral, of course, had a bit of a nightmare, to be honest, in Belgium. It was TF10 who obviously came out on top. How did the race go, of course, last 2 weeks, Aidan?
Yeah, it was a pretty interesting race to say the least, actually. It started off a little bit of a slow burner, but it did definitely pick up pace towards the end. And like you say, VSR not having the race they would have wanted. Duncan, I believe, was doing a really, really good job for Visceral. And unfortunately, late race damage for him really took him out of the running, unfortunately. And it was TF10 that capitalised and got their first win of the season, which is amazing to see. Amazing to see that 5 rounds in and we get only our second team winning a race, which is just hard to believe, isn't it, how dominant Visceral have been. Problem championship-wise, Visceral had a poor day, but OP themselves also didn't have the best of days either. They were struggling with connection throughout the night and a whole host of problems, unfortunately, for OP, so they didn't have the best of races either. So while it wasn't a great day for Visceral, OP couldn't use the race to capitalise, so Visceral still have a very comfortable lead in the championship.
Yeah, I mean, OP are still second as well coming into tonight. So they haven't had, obviously, the best race, of course, in Belgium. Both the drivers are here tonight. However, we've got a new driver, of course, featuring within the OP team. Let us have a look then at the driver lineup and the team's lineup, in fact, coming into tonight. So from the top of your screen, we're going clockwise around. So ET8 are represented by Gustav and Pandre. VSR with Duncan and Yush. Shazoo with Suku and Cornet. FER with Isma and Modesto. TTG with Wouters and Hadler, Team Mentalism with Grimbos and Johan, OP with Yakita and Nico. I think that's been changed to Dino, in fact, if I'm not mistaken, replacing Yakita. WR with Baraka and Risa. TF10 with Leo and Yamaba. Yamaba is out. I think we've got Iker in for them. And IFR have got Pat and the Dutch Missile. Anybody striking your fancy, Aiden, in terms of the team lineup coming into tonight?
It's going to be interesting, isn't it? I mean, we've always got to look at VSR. They've been so strong all season long. It would be hard to bet against them. It's going to be interesting to see what Iker can do for TF10, coming off the back of a really good result for them. See what he can bring to the team. He's new to the team as well, I believe. So be interested to see what he can do. Dino as well for Outplay. That'll be an interesting one to see what he can do for OP, whether he can help in their strive to get closer to Visceral in the championship. But beyond that, it's hard to say, really, isn't it? Because the rest of the teams have kind of been up and down all season long. I mean, the likes of TTG and Shazoo have had the pace, but never quite got fully the results they would have wanted from the races. So quite difficult to say, but just based on their performances recently and the momentum that they've built throughout the season, I've got my eye on those FER guys. They started off the season quite poorly. They've really come on song in the last few rounds or so. They're now fourth in the championship. So FER, I think, are going to be the ones to look out for again tonight.
Yeah, they're beginning to build themselves up into a really good rhythm, I think, within this team championship. Of course, coming into tonight, VSR have been dominant. Duncan and Yusuf, of course, representing them tonight in the Aston Martins. I've got to be honest, I think TTG's going to have a good night. Hadler and Wouters both in the Mercedes. I think they're going to have a really positive night. Of course, they haven't had things go their way in the last couple of weeks, but with Hadler and Wouters, you've got two really good drivers around this track. I've commentated on Hadler before around here in TTML, and he was really, really quick last season. So he's going to be one to watch out for, I think. We've also got the TF10 guys, of course. Iker, who I think has just left the session, if I'm not mistaken. So hopefully he will be able to rejoin. We've got Will G, of course, representing them. And they're bidding to follow up, of course, Leo's win in Belgium.
Yeah, definitely bidding to look up to try and repeat that performance. Of course, new to the championship, like they say, they've only been in for 2 rounds and already they've picked up a win. They've made quite an impression on the season so far. So yeah, will definitely be interesting to see what they can do for the rest of the season. Of course, they're not really in the championship fight. I think the championship fight is Visceral's to lose at this point, so it's all about as far up the standings as they can get for TF10. And I think with how close it is from about third down, third is still realistically within a shot for TF10, and they've had the pace recently to prove that they can do so.
Yeah, they have indeed. We're about to get going, of course, into the track, and it's beautiful blue skies and sunshine, something that we really don't rarely see for the British Grand Prix around here. But 20 drivers about to battle, of course, around the Silverstone International Circuit. 5.9 kilometres, 3.6 mile, 2 DRS zones, of course, 1 down the Wellington Straight, 1 down the Hangar Straight as well. And I could name these corners off the back of my hand, quite literally. I think we're all familiar with the British Grand Prix circuit, but we've got the likes of Abbey Farm and Vale, of course, as corners that really cement themselves. The home of British motorsport, and we're about to get going. First cars are leaving. I think that's an Aston Martin beginning to leave the pit lane, and I think that might be either Eust or Duncan leaving early. It's Duncan that's going to be one of the first out for sure. But who's the first man out on track? I think I can see. It's on a Haas or an Alfa Romeo just ahead.
I think that's a Haas just ahead by the looks of things. I think that Haas is Risa, so he's going to be the first out onto the track in the Haas. And yeah, like you say, the Silverstone circuit it's so iconic, this track. So many people know this track off by heart. It's one of the most iconic tracks across the globe, let alone in Formula One. It is so universally recognised as one of the best tracks on the globe. And myself, I'm so lucky to be so close to the track in real life as well. It is an amazing circuit, and it's always produced amazing racing. I thought I'd just throw that little humble brag in there as per usual. So yeah, it is a brilliant circuit, and it's sure to produce another great race.
He knows I'm Northern. He knows I'm Northern, and he had to throw that in. That's terrible, I think, from my co-commentator's perspective. Risa, as used, of course, first out on track. Duncan just going past him. So it looks like Risa doesn't want to be the first man out on track. And obviously Duncan is going to have the fresh track for himself. Of course, he is an absolute god, I've got to say, around time trial around here. And Duncan will be hoping for a really good lap to try and cement VSR's position to be that top team coming into the British Grand Prix. But I've got to be honest, this could be wide open. We have got a few changes, of course, in terms of the tyres as well. Looks like Asi and Baraka look like they're going to be on a set of medium compounded tyres. And I believe as well, with the incident reports, we've got one of the Shizou drivers, if I'm not mistaken, serving up a qualifying ban as a result. And also Iker for TF10, because he's a late addition to the lineup, he's also going to be serving a qualifying ban for tonight. We're about to get going, though, for Duncan's lap around the Silverstone International Circle. Let us right on board, then, as we now come through the final corner of Vale and then through Club and onto the newly named Hamilton Straight, or you could call it the Sir Lewis Hamilton Straight. We now run down in towards Termon, flat out through Abbey, and then through Farm at turn 2, and then on the run up towards Village at turn 3. Car just getting off the way to the right-hand side. Lovely stuff as it now comes through Village, and then to the loop section through turn 4. You can choose to take the wide-out line to try and maximise the effort of the car coming through. Now through Aintree at turn 5 and onto the Wellington Straight, opening up that second DRS zone, of course, or the first DRS zone. Second, of course, being down the Hangar Straight. It's a very good first sector from Duncan, 27.3, I think that is, through the first sector, and the German now, or the Dutchman, I should say, coming through Luffield, and now coming through turn 7 and in towards Woodcote. He's got a car just off the left hand side there. That's one of the Hasses for WR, and now he comes through Woodcote on the run down the old pit straight, on the run now down in towards Copse Corner. Copse can be taken flat out in these cars on this game, and he manages to do that very nicely indeed as now Duncan comes through Maggots and then into Beckett's. And then, eventually, he'll get in towards Chapel, and then through onto the Hangers Straight, and opens up that second DRS on the DRS zone, move forward slightly, a 102.7 through the middle sector from Duncan. So looking very competitive in his lap so far, as he now flies through Stowe at turn number 15, and then on the downhill run, in towards Vale at 16 and 17. Verstappen and Vettel, of course, a couple of years ago, making contact through theirs. We now come through 16, through 17, pretty much a lap over and done with the Silverstone International Circuit, through Club, and across the line, and Duncan, of course, goes quickest with a 126 flat, I think that is.
Yeah, 26 flat for VSR Duncan. His teammates about to cross the line and go a bit quicker. Yeah, by 0.008 of a second, it couldn't be closer. I think he's had about a 10th advantage over his teammate in the first two sectors and lost a little bit towards the end of the lap. But of course, 26.8 maybe a bit slower than we're used to seeing, of course, after the update to this game. And Isma just proves how close it's going to be around Silverstone. He goes 2,000 slower than Duncan, so the top three separated by 1/100th of a second. That's going to be kind of the theme of tonight, isn't it? While this track is, I think, the third or fourth longest track in Formula 1, because so much of the track is flat out, it's the gaps in time around this circuit tend to be incredibly small.
Yeah, definitely so. I think we've also got laps from Gustav. You's currently out on top of Duncan in second, Isma in third, and it is really close at the top of the standings. 1/100th of a second covering the top three, which is unbelievable, and I wouldn't be surprised, honestly, if this whole field is covered by about a second as we come towards the end of qualifying. Of course, the track is going to evolve as we go through the session. We have got 5 minutes gone, 13 minutes still left. You sat on top, Duncan in second, Isma in third. Gustav now coming round the final couple of corners. ET8, of course, backing up a really good performance, actually, in Belgium 2 weeks ago. So now Gustav runs on. Eagle 7 fits in there just ahead of Risa, 26.5, so not looking too bad. Dino is a new driver for OP. OP relying on him, of course. I think he's taking the place of, not Yakita, it's the other driver that they had fielded. Just gone off the top of my head, as you can probably tell, as Dino now comes through Maggots and Beckett. So far, not looking like a competitive lap, but hopefully the OP man will be on a very good lap very shortly.
Yeah, 102.9 by the end of the second sector is about 4/10 down, I would say, on the two VSR drivers in the first couple of sectors. So this will probably put him in and around where Gustav is at the moment, which isn't a bad start for his first race, but unfortunately won't be really where he'll want to be. It's obviously OP second in the championship will want to be as high up as they can, but OP all season long really have been about the alternate strategy, and there he goes, just ahead of Gustav and behind Pat into just about where we expected. So look at that. Modesto and Wouters are on the same time in 5th and 6th, and then Pat and Dino are on the same time in 7th and 8th, just further proving that it's incredibly close here.
Yeah, they're mirroring each other, I think. Ogiano's there coming through Cops in towards turn 15, or through Stowe, in fact, through turn 15, and then in towards the final couple of corners of Vale and Club. I've seen the comment, by the way, my mic is breaking up. I can't do anything about it, sadly, so you might just have to put up with it. Just imagine as popcorn crackling as Ogiano goes fourth with a 126.1, so not looking too bad there from Ogiano. Used to the bad on top, Duncan in second, Isma in third. No, I haven't got so far laps from Ika, who was obviously serving the qualifying ban. Suku is out there. I wonder if he's the driver that's going to be fielding the qualifying ban for Shazoo. They have got a qualifying ban, of course. I think it was Simon that caused an incident 2 weeks ago in Belgium and for holding up another driver, and that's why he got a qualifying ban. So one of the drivers for Shazoo, certainly not Ogiano, because he's already set a lap. Suku, I'm imagining, is going to be setting up onto kind of an outlap, but he's going to come into the pit lane. He just wants to get his setup on, I think.
Yeah, I think that is the case, just confirming that the setup is right for his car, and then he'll just likely retire in the pit lane, like you say. So, yeah, a shame for Suku, because Suku, when he does race in this championship, is usually up in and around the top 5 pretty much every time, isn't he? He's a very competitive driver, so he's going to be one to look out for in the race if he is serving that qualifying ban. One thing about this circuit as well, we'll come onto it a lot more in the race, I am sure, but despite this track being so fast and there being a few overtaking opportunities, it is actually quite difficult to overtake here. So it's going to be a real problem for Suku if you just have to drive through the back of the field. With the field being so close at the moment, and with it being difficult to overtake, it could be a quite a long race, unfortunately, for the Williams driver.
Yeah, Suku is... I thought he was going to stay on track there. He would have been cheeky if he was. He's coming back into the pit lane with everyone watching him, and unfortunately, he will not get away with that, unfortunately for him. Used to add on top, Duncan in second, Isma in third. Still those lap times, all the first lap times that the guys have set. Duncan is back out on an outlap, so is Isma. Isma's a bit further on track. Used to add on top, and nearly halfway through qualifying, and already it's a bit like the old, to be honest. The VSR boys currently dominating, but as you've already alluded to, it is so close in this qualifying section. I think I can make out, actually, top 16 covered just over a second at the minute.
Yeah, just over a second, and it's just over half a second covering the top 12. That's incredibly close at the moment between all of those drivers. There's drivers down there as well, like Risa and Gustav, you've got to say, that will probably have more in them as well, that could get a bit further up. So it's going to be incredibly close at the moment. It'll be interesting to see if anybody can bridge the gap between Isma and the two VSR drivers at the front of Yono, kind of filling the gap at the moment between Isma and Will G, where there tends to be the biggest gap. Isma's going for another run. He'll be, I think, one of the first to go for another run in the session, along with Reese in the Haas car. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what Isma can do on his second run, whether he can get any improvement. But that's another thing as well. It can be difficult to find an improvement around here, and he has a big lock-up there going into turn 3.
Yeah, coming through Village now in towards turn 4, and he's got to try and really get this lap. This is a very good lap time, obviously set by Isma. He's just a couple of tenths off the VSR boys, so he's got to put in a really, really good lap to try and involve it throughout the track. It's a good first sector, 27.3. However, I think he's just invalidated coming through Brooklands, and I think because he's back off the lap, he has, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, he has, and it looked like his teammate, I think, was ready to give him a tow there down towards Cops, or through Cops as well, which could have been a good tactic. I've already spotted the WOR drivers are doing the slipstream tactic in this qualifying session. They did it in the first one. I think Reese is going to get a slipstream off of his teammate Baraka again here. Yes, he is. So Reese is the furthest along in a lap at the moment. He's getting a nice tow, actually, from the back of his Haas teammate down this straight. It's a 10.5 up at the moment on his personal best, which would put him, as it stands, in and around where Pat and Dino are in 8th and 9th, which would be a good improvement for his second run. See where he can head to through the final few corners of the lap, and then Vale and Club chicane there. Obviously reprofiled this corner from about, 12 years ago now. This corner was reprofiled. It seems like a long time ago now. As he crosses the line, he found a lot of time in that final sector, ended up going 4.5 tenths faster, and he's up into 4th.
Yeah, got a bit of slipstreaming as well with the VSR boys coming down in towards Stowe at turn 15. Duncan is on a lap. He looks like he's improving as well. So we could see the first 25 of the night. He really fights the car. Ike has had a 5-place grid penalty for collision with Yakita. Not sure what's happened there for the TF10 man. And the TF10 man, of course, I think is on an outlap. He had to serve up that qualifying ban, of course, for changing the lineup. Duncan comes across the line, thinking validated coming out of Stowe. So that is why he didn't get an improvement on his lap time. Isma's just started up on another one. Hadler currently in 6th position. Currently, one of my predictions is actually partly coming right, because White is there in 9th position. TTG looking competitive tonight.
Yeah, looking pretty strong so far, aren't they? So, see what Wouters can do, whether he can improve at the moment. He's only 2 tenths off pole and he's currently 9th. That's how close it is at the moment. He's found a 1.5 tenths of that in the first sector alone. So, already a good first sector from the Mercedes man. We'll see if he can get any further up the field. Duncan's lap, by the way, he wouldn't have actually improved anyway. He invalidated, but the time wasn't an improvement. He actually went a tenth slower, so that time wouldn't have got him into provisional pole position, interestingly. So he's still in that second position. I think he just gave a tow to his teammate as well down the Wellington Straight, so we'll see if he can improve further. Isma's gone for another lap, but he's backed off again, so Isma's going to be coming into the pit lane at the end of this lap, and that's his second runs over and done with.
Yeah, still 100th of a second though off use. Wouters now coming through the end of the middle sector. It's a 102.8. Is that a 102.3? Can't see. I'm looking at the steering wheel. I can't see what it's like through the middle sector. Baraka, however, has gone fourth, and he puts it only 200th off use. So good luck there from him. Wouters now be right on board with in toward Vale and Club as Modesto goes fourth as well. Everyone coming in with the 26 flats, it seems. That seems to be everyone's bit of gravy out on track. As that Wouters comes across the line, and he didn't actually improve on his lap time. So Wouters obviously now starts it. Maybe on another lap he might come back into the pit lane. 5 minutes 50 seconds ago. Anybody on the lap? Use 25.9.
25.9, yeah, found a tenth and a half, then that tow from his teammate must have helped him quite nicely. So solidifies pole position, but like you were saying, so many drivers were in the 26 flats there. Top 5 would have all been within 300ths of one another, which is incredibly close. And then Rees and Orgiano just behind that as well. Orgiano's on another lap, and he's finding time as well, currently in the Williams, so we'll see where he can go. Of course, his best lap was set on his second lap on that set of soft tyres, so he will get the advantage of being on a bit fresher tyres than his first run as he comes through the final two corners. Bit of a wobble coming out the first part of Club, crosses the line, and he now goes onto the front row and splits the VSR driver, so a good lap from Orgiano, and another driver into the 26 flats.
26 flats, as I say, seems to be everyone's bit of gravy out on track. They seem to be just improving through 26 flats, and that might be the threshold that a majority of these drivers reach. Looking, though, use down to Gustav now. 17 drivers covered by 6/10 of a second. Just over 6.5 tenths as Johan now puts himself there. So it's now the top 18. I will reiterate, the top 18 now that are currently separated by 6/10 of a second, which is very good going, of course. This is not official F1 Esports if you are tuning in. This is This is on the PS4. This is the PSGL Esports Cup event. It was the PSGL and VRT Esports Cup event, of course, renamed, of course, after VRT had folded, I think. You still on top, Orgiano in second, Duncan in third. Not many improvements going to be found. Johan has just obviously came off a lap. I think Dutch Missile is just on a down lap at this stage. Dino, I'm not sure if he's on a lap.
Just combining with Dino, I think he is on another push lap by the looks of things, but I think he's run out of fuel, yeah, so he's going to come back into the pit lane. He's not going to be able to get round and do an in-lap, and he wouldn't have enough time to come back in anyway, so he's bailed out of that one last moment. So everyone getting ready for their final runs now, and crazy to think, Gustav just, 3 minutes ago was in 9th position. He's now 18th after their second run, so just proving that it's crucial that if you can find any amount of time, it can really benefit you. One driver I thought that second run was a little bit weird to see. Wouters had an amazing first sector, was a 10th and a half up, and he lost it all in the next two sectors. So a little bit of a bizarre fall-off in the second part of the lap, unfortunately, for the Mercedes driver. Maybe he's made a slight change possibly to his tyre pressures or to his front wing, and maybe it helped him in the first sector, but nowhere else.
Yeah, quite possibly, to be honest. Obviously, the track is still going to improve in terms of the time. So these guys, however minimal improvement, it's going to be close. Yukita, I'm looking down to Wouters, is covered by, 300ths of a second as well. So that's 8th down to 12th position, covered by 300ths of a second, which is absolutely great going. Of course, the second down to 6th is covered by 400ths of a second as well. So this is, quite literally, the best grid possibly you could have for a team event currently. Duncan, about to start on a lap, 26 flat, less than 3 minutes ago in the session. You start on top, Orgiano second, Duncan in third. I have a feeling, though, we're not going to see many improvements towards the end of the session because it looks like the majority of these guys are coming out for at least 2 laps, maybe 1 out lap, and then maybe 1 to go on to their official lap. But some of these guys are going to risk it, obviously staying in the pit lane and only do 1 run.
Yeah, we've seen it time and time before, haven't we, that people leave it till the last minute and then they will get caught up with one another and end up ruining their laps. So it happens quite often. I wonder as well whether teams have split their strategies to try and help give their teammates a tow here. I think that's what the VSR drivers could be doing a little bit later in the lap. We'll wait and see. Duncan's going to be, I think, one of the first drivers on a lap. Hadler and Will G on laps a bit further around at the moment, currently 9th and 10th. We'll see what they can do. TF10 Will G coming up to the end of the first sector, and he has found 700ths of a second in the first sector, which would already put him up to close to 7th place on the grid.
Yeah, not too bad so far from Will G. Looks like he's going to put him up in towards 8th position. Risa is 7th at the minute, 26.1, so he's got that little bit of a gap to try and aim for. We're on board with them now, running down in towards Cops, and we'll go on board, flying through Cops, literally nearly killing me, the cameraman, as we come through there. Now down in towards Maggots and Beckett's. Used to out on top, Ogiano second, Duncan in third. Ike, I really hope he is not going to go on to a lap here, because TF10 have to serve that. It looks like Will LG, though, has actually invalidated just coming through the exit of Beckett's there.
Yeah, he has, unfortunately, which is a shame to see. Interesting, TTG have done their substitution strategy, but they've done it coming out of Luffield all the way through Cops and up towards Maggots and Beckett's. That's an interesting place to do it, and it's not really found them any time at all. He's only 400s up at the moment, is Hadler, which could get him up a place on the grid, but not really any closer to that battle right at the sharp end of the grid. We'll see if he can find any time in the final sector as he heads up towards the line. It looks like Will G is just backing off and getting ready to go for another run in this session. Hadler then up towards the final corner and across the line. Where can the Mercedes man go? Currently 9th, crosses the line, he goes 8th. So he does find a little bit of time, but only 800ths of an improvement, and it's only 1 place gain.
Yeah, minimal improvement. Duncan finding the car out the final corner as well. Wasn't the greatest one, I've got to say, in toward Vale, but he goes second, just ahead of Ogiano, behind his teammate now. Ogiano, of course, on that lap about to prepare up. Isma has got a lot of traffic. He's got the Haas in front of him, and that is unbelievable. I'm not sure who that might have been. I think it was Baraka on an outlap. Isma getting blocked there. So I think WR possibly going to be having the stewards calling up their number, and Baraka now down in 6th position. He is going to get some wrath, I think, with that.
Yeah, 100%. That was just a blatant block in the middle of the Maggots and Beckett's complex. He just didn't move out of the way. That is such a shame for Isma. He was improving on his lap as well, so he's going to back off and try and go for another run, but that's a real compromise, unfortunately, for the FER man, who looked like he could have gone up a couple of spots on the grid.
Yeah, used on board with coming through out of Luffield as well, and now in towards Wooker at turn 8. Used to out on top. Time has ended. Baraka and Nikita, I don't think are going to get outlaps. In fact, I think they are going to get outlaps. It looks like we've got a little bit of a timing glitch. We are going to see improvements to the left-hand side. If you spot an improvement, we will try and bring it to you if we can. Used to out on top. Duncan in second. Ogiano in third. I have a feeling this could change. Yusto coming through the end of the middle sector. We'll run on board with him as he now comes down. Out through Chapel, and it's a 102.4. I think he's slightly off in the middle sector. Ike has retired from the session, so clearly not setting on a lap. I think he actually did go on to a lap. I'm pretty sure I did see him go on to a lap on the left-hand side. Will G goes 6th. Wouters goes second for TTG. Really good lap from the TTG man. Yusto coming around the final corner. Is he going to try and improve? The Flying Dutchman of the PS4 comes across the line. Wow. And my goodness me, improved 25.6. He was really good in Belgium. He's even better tonight in Britain. Yusto out on top. What is Ogiano responding with though? He's down in towards Vale and Club. We'll run above them now as he comes out the final corner in towards Club through the final corner. And he doesn't improve. Isma's on a lap there as well. I think he's managed to get onto another lap. Luckily, Modesto, I think, is just behind him out on track as well. So these are the guys to really worry about. Duncan is invalid, actually, coming through the middle sector. I think he might have ran out of fuel as well. But Isma now coming through the final couple of corners. FER looking very strong. 5th and 6th currently. Are they going to improve their position? Isma goes second. Really good lap. As now Modesto comes around the final corner, and he doesn't improve either. So Baraka comes across the line. He stays in 8th position. I think it was a minimal improvement there. Yukita across the line improved up to 13th. That, my friends, is the end of qualifying. It's Used out on top. Who else is out on top? It's in second and Wouters in third. So TTG, certainly with Wouters, having a very good show.
Yeah, like you said, second race in a row. Eustace just pulled it out of the bag and smashed everybody's times, hasn't he? What a lap again for Muse in this qualifying session to go 2/10 clear at the front of the field. It's a shame, unfortunately, there for Modesto at the end. I think he invalidated coming out of Stowe. He would have been third on the grid had he set that lap time and not invalidated, so that would have been an FDR 2-3. He's still comfortably inside the top 10 though, at least, which is some sort of comfort for him. But yet again, Goose blows the rest of the field out of the water.
Yeah, Xbox might be quicker, but Used to certainly quicker on the PS4 compared to everyone else. Used out on top from Isbert in second, 0.2 of a second actually covering the top two. White is there in third, Duncan in fourth in the end. He's got a little bit of work to do from the start. Ogiano in fifth, Modesto in sixth, Will LG in seventh, Baraka in eighth, Dutch Missile in ninth, Risa ran off the top 10, then it's Hadler, Assi, Yakita, Gustav and Pat. Dino, the new driver for OP in 16th, Grimballs, Johan, disappointing from Team Mentalism, Ike and Suku, of course, both serving up qualifying bans for their respective teams. Let us then go. You have seen the British Grand Prix already, the Silverstone International Circuit. Let me run you through then a formal track introduction. Welcome back, everyone, of course, to the PSGL Esports Cup event. We are here for round 6 of the championship as we take in the British Grand Prix from the Silverstone International Circuit. And famous corners like Abbey, Farm, Vale are going to test the drivers to their absolute limit around the 5.9-kilometre circuit of the Silverstone International Circuit, of course, bordering Buckinghamshire and Northamptonshire. 5.8 kilometres and then 3.6 mile, 18 turns, 2 DRS zones, 1 down the Wellington Straight, 1 down the Hanger Straight, and 1, of course, in towards 10.15 at Stowe. And this is where the opportunities could really provide themselves in terms of the overtaking. Dry compounder tyres, it could be C3, C2 and C1 compounder tyres, so the softs, mediums and the hards. The softs, of course, being the fastest, mediums being the balance, and hardest, of course, being the longest lasting. I think, though, everyone is probably going to be going up on that set of soft and medium strategy for this race here in Britain, as we return back to the action. And once again, beautiful blue skies and sunshine. It's almost as if we get treated to the weather now.
Yeah, we're being treated fully, aren't we? Silverstone are being nice to us today. I mean, we might have jinxed it, we might get rain at the end of the race, but at the moment, at least, it seems nice and dry, which is great to see. But, yeah, brilliant qualifying session that we just came out of. In the end, we said it was disappointing, unfortunately, for Team Mentalism. They were only 0.6 of a second off pole position, which is not that big of a margin considering the talent we've got in this field, the likes of VSR and FVR right at the front of the field. That is not far off pole. But they ended up 17th and 18th in the slowest qualifiers. They just managed to fit 16 cars in between themselves and pole position, which is crazy to think, and again proving our point, if it hasn't proved it already, that it's incredibly close throughout the field in qualifying. So, going to be interesting to see, and we've of course got those two drivers of Suku and Ike at the back of the field that we haven't seen the best of yet, so we don't know how their race pace is going to be, and they could be ones to watch.
Yeah, incredibly close in qualifying. Of course, to remind you of the standings coming in tonight, you can see on the left-hand side of your screen, Visceral Esports lead the way on 242 points, OP in second 167, WR Esports in third on 118 points. And looking at that battle for third, actually, Aidan, of course, WR dominating third position at the minute. They're only 12 points ahead of FER, and FER arguably have had a better qualifying session than them tonight.
Yeah, it definitely looks like the case, doesn't it? FDR seems to have had the better qualifying session. WR aren't far off, but anything can happen in these races, and even a slight improvement in points for FDR will be massive for them in the championship. So be interesting to see what FDR can do points-wise as well. And of course, a few teams as well, not that far off the back of them either. IFR, still, they've just got over the 100-point mark, and they've not had a bad qualifying either. Dutch Missiles up there in ninth, Pat a bit further down, but he's on the alternate strategy, so he could definitely be one to look out for as well. So, yeah, a lot of teams to look out for in that battle for third at the moment. Going to be interested to see who comes out on top today.
Yeah, it is, and everyone's going to be a bit mixed up, of course, as well. A very close qualifying session, so are we going to get that transitioned, of course, into the race? I really hope so, because this has got all the hallmarks of possibly being race of the season. I'm going to say it live on stream. Race of the season here tonight in Britain is guaranteed. Looking at the strategies, actually, further down the field, Yukita and Gustav breaking the exception rather than the rule. They're on a set of soft compounder tyres. Everyone else on a set of mediums. Probably, I would say, on an alternate strategy, mediums to softs is better than softs to mediums.
I would say medium soft is definitely the faster of the two strategies, but like I've mentioned, it's so difficult to overtake here that you could get stuck at the back of the cube once you come out after your pit stop. So difficult to see. Yukita and Gustav, I think, are just trying to gain places early in this race against Hadler and Azzy, and then cover themselves off if there's an early safety car.
We are about to get going, of course, here for the Silverstone at the Silverstone International Circuit. The British Grand Prix is just moments away. Predict the pit stop strategy randomly comes up. It's lap 10 to 13, apparently, onto a set of mediums, and then lap 10 to 13 on a set of hard compound tyres. We are now waiting for the cars to rejoin onto the grid. Everyone is now here. The 5 red lights are about to go out here for round 6 of the championship and the PSGL Esports Cup event. And it is eventually going to be, I really hope, have we got a bit of a glitch? I think we might. Suku looks like he's a bit glitched on the timing screens, and certainly on my end. Used is, we are waiting. We're waiting with bated breath. I think there is one driver that might be causing a few little issues here, but hopefully we're going to get underway very soon.
Fingers crossed, yeah, we'll wait and see. It might just happen for us, unfortunately, which is a shame. It's a shame to see that this is happening. Hopefully we do get this race underway, but yeah, be a real shame if we do have to restart the lobby. Unfortunately, that will be a little bit of a distraction for some of these drivers as well. If we do have to do that, unfortunately. So, yeah, we'll wait and see. But it looks like we may have a problem with the lobby, unfortunately.
Yeah, people reporting a bit of a new bug. I've actually seen the Suku's now left the session. His car has just left the grid, and now we're going to get 5 red lights, it seems. So the revving engines are on, and it is lights out, and away we go. Eventually, with bated breath, we're underway. Use leads the way. Isma gets a really good start as well. Wouters is now side by side in towards Abby, but it's Use that leads, and actually Isma cuts off Wouters coming through turn 2. There's all sorts of carnage in the background. Izzy has been caught up in that. Yukita has been caught up in that. I think Dino as well. So both OP drivers caught up in turn 1 melee coming through the field. Use still leads the way. Isma in second. Wouters in third. Duncan in fourth. They're going side by side now, coming down the Wellington straight. Use still leads the way, and they're trying to break the toe desperately in behind. Modesto and Ogiano nearly had contact on the run down in towards Brooklands. They're through 5th and 6th, and Duncan trying to master it all the way around the outside now. Now on the inside line for Wouters. Duncan all the way on the outside through Luffield. Doesn't get the move done, but Use leads the way. Isma in second. Wouters in third. Graphics might be glitched slightly on the left-hand side, but everyone trying to break the toe desperately side by side between LG and Ogiano, and he dips back in, but carnage coming through turn 1.
Yeah, real carnage. I think a few drivers caught out by the fact that their tyres might have been a little bit cold after that glitch start.
Oh my God.
Will gets all side by side. That is really, really close racing. How they got away with that, I don't know. But Will G hangs on to 6th position. Baraka's going to try and get the run. Nogiano down the straight then is going to look to the outside line. Can he get the run up towards Stowe? Of course, no DRS yet, so it's just based on pure straight line speed. He's going to try and go around the outside. Can't do it. Ogiano holds on to 7th place for the time being. He's going to try the switchback though, and that'll be the outside for Vale, which could be the inside for Club. He's late on the brakes. Goes down the outside, will be the inside for Club, like I mentioned, down the inside. But Ogiano gets the better run around the outside. Nothing Baraka could do. Ogiano well held there as now Dutch Missile comes down the inside, trying to tack up towards Abbey, but that's not conventional overtaking place. And Dutch Missile rightly backs out of that one before there's any contact. So a bit of a crazy start to this race. Ogiano losing places. Now Risa diving down the inside of Dutch Missile there, trying to get the move done, but Dutch Missile's just going to have the inside line for the loop. I think he'll just about hold on to that place as they come through Aintree.
Yeah, now Reese is going to have the run, of course, down the Wellington straight. He's right in the toe, and we're going to ride on board with him on the run down in towards Brooklands. Coming through turn 6, he dodges down the inside line. The Dane on the Dutchman, and he now flies through. Lovely move there by Reese. Coming through Brooklands, he is through and he's into 9th position, following through Baraka's move earlier on, of course, on the first lap. As he got caught up in a bit of contact, Yukita Suku also got caught up in contact. It is Ika and Dino that have came off worse. Ika is in for a set of hard compounded tyres, and Dino on a set of soft compounded tyres if you are following them through right down the back of the field. But Use leads the way. Isma in second. Wouters in third. And honestly, Use got a really good start. He absolutely excelled off the race start. Isma, though, keeping with him. 6/10 of a second and behind. And of course, it's close enough to run in that toe. But how would you say, in terms of the slipstream, how would it affect Isma in behind? Because Isma's going to be feeling this effect by Use, but the further down you are in that DRS train, like Grimbos and Patar, who are going side by side, further down the field in towards Stowe, coming through, and he goes all the way around the outside, those Grimbos, trying to get the move done, bit of wheel banging, nothing more, nothing less, to the inside line, still fighting, the IFL line's going to be cut up on the curb, nearly a bit like Raikkonen, and it's nearly spun, and now Johan is going to come through on the inside line, and the two team mentalism cars nearly make a little bit of contact. Johan, however, is through, got the overspeed, and he's through, and he's into 14th, so Grimbos, unfortunately for him, losing technically 2 positions.
Yeah, lost 2 positions there. They were fighting, I think, a little bit too hard for their own good. They've now lost the back of this DRS queue for the drivers in front, and the medium tyres aren't going to have the pace on the softs at this point in the race. So that's just going to cost them further down the race at this point in this one. I think one of those drivers had to back out of that one. I think Pat was the man behind, as Johan now is just going to breeze past Pat in a straight line. There you go. The power of DRS is just going to cost him more time. So I think Pat, an aggressive overtake there, kind of barged his way past Grimbos, and I think he kind of needs to back out of that one for the better of his race.
Yeah, definitely. Use leads the way 5/10 of a second. If we go on to lap 3, DRS, of course, is enabled this lap. In terms of the position changes, actually, that have happened so far, 5 positions gained. Johan has gained the most positions so far out of everyone. Modesto and Will LG further up the field have gained 1 position, and 1 position's lost, of course, with Dutch Missile, 2 lost for Ogiano. So they seem to be the real losers. Assi has lost 5, along with Yukita and Dino, who have lost 3. Wouters now on the back of Isma, right tucked in the slipstream, not going to get the move done, down in towards Stowe, but Use leads the way. Isma in second, Wouters in third, and everyone, I think, is just going to follow each other until one of them blinks early, I think. And to be honest, it looks as if the top 5 might just be beginning to pull away. Will LG is just desperately trying to hang on to the toe, and Modesto in front.
Yeah, it does look that way, doesn't it? Those in the top 5 are much better off ERS-wise. They're not pushing as hard as those a bit further down, as Grimbos and Pat go for round 2 this time around. And Grimbos does come out on top this time around, so he's up into 14th position. Pat is now down into 15th place. Not going too well, unfortunately, for the IFO driver at this point, and Nikita's flying up to the back of him now after his poor start in this race. OP really have had a bit of a disaster in this opening phase. Dino down at the back with the fellow new driver to this league in Ike. They're both at the back of the field, so they'll be hoping for a safety car to bring themselves back into this race. There's a bit of close racing a bit further up.
Duncan nearly went into the back of Wouters coming through Brooklyn. That was so late on the brakes and so committed by the Dutchman. He nearly went into the back of Wouters, 3rd and 4th position. Luckily for him, all remaining intact, everyone's still going. I think Duncan is just purely quicker than Wouters at this stage, and he's trying to desperately get through as they run wide coming through Cops.
Yeah, one road coming through Cops. They can get away with that in terms of warning-wise if you run wide enough, actually. So if you run quite wide through Cops, you don't tend to get anything for it. As Isma touches the grass coming through Chapel, has that given Wouters a bit of a run? No, it hasn't, and Wouters is not using his ERS down the straight either. So just proving that the further back down in the tow you are, the less opportunity you have to overtake it. Isma at this point in the race really has no incentive to pass you because he'll probably just get past on the next lap. So, like you mentioned earlier on, just waiting for that moment when someone dives into the pit lane and pulls the trigger.
Yeah, Nikita is through, coming through Stowe as well. He is through on Pat. They're fighting side by side in toward Vale and Club. I can see that on the mini-map. And both of them are actually into the pit lane. Nikita's got a 5-second penalty. Pat, I don't think, has. But Nikita has got a 5-second penalty. So going from bad to worse for the team. Of course, in 2nd position in the standings, OP. Defending, really, an advantage of around 50 points, which is enough, I think, so far to carry them through this race. But with down in 18th, 19th position, such a disappointment for the Italian outfit.
Yeah, real disappointment, like I mentioned earlier on. It's just not going their way, and 50 points is comfortable for now, but that could get wiped out in a single race. Like you say, FVR up there at the moment, 2nd and 5th, doing a solid job. WRR both drivers in the top 10 for them as well. So, yeah, they could really get overtaken very soon in this championship if they don't get their act together.
Yeah, Gustav was challenging Hadler there down in towards Brooklands, but didn't get the move done. You still leading the way. Isbra 2nd, Wouters in 3rd. I promise you, everyone, that this race is going to get a little more feisty as we get into the second half of the race. A good old DRS train around Silverstone. You don't have to like that at all, to be honest, but you do have to appreciate that it is happening out on track so far. Isma is getting closer to the back of Use. He's around 2 tenths away on the run down in towards Stowe, and now looks to try and commit the move. He's not going to commit the move. Duncan in behind as well, very late on the brakes behind Wouters. Still 3rd and 4th. The 2 Team Mentalism cars change positions. So Grimbles is through on Johan and he's up into 13th position. Duncan pretty much shoving Wouters there, coming in toward Vale, and now coming through Club Corner at turn 18. Use leads the way. On to lap 6 we go. Isma in 2nd, Wouters in 3rd. Duncan in 4th. Currently looking really good in terms of everything. In terms of the tyres as well, all of these guys are on 5-lap tyres. Nikita, Pat, Dino and Ika are the only ones that have made at least one pit stop so far. Duncan literally all over the back of Wouters. He's getting a bit impatient, I think.
Yeah, definitely. We've got to say, running on board with him, he looks so much faster. I think if anybody's going to pull the trigger here, it's going to be Duncan. He's going to be in early to try and undercut these guys and make it a VSR 1-2. He seems like he's got the pace. Oh, that's a big dive down the inside of Brooklands. Thank God that Wouters saw that one coming and left him the space down the inside. It'll be the outside for Luffield, and he just doesn't have the grip to do so. It was worth the shot. It was a late dive, and, well, hats off to Duncan for not outbraking himself, and hats off to Wouters for seeing it coming.
Good job that it didn't make contact there, because I think that would have really hit the headlines. Duncan there in 4th position, Wouters there in 3rd. Wouters almost coming through Cops, looks quicker than Duncan coming through there, but then Duncan, around the rest of the lap, is so much quicker than him. So they're just backing up into each other, really. You still leads the way. Isma in 2nd, Wouters in 3rd. Is Wouters now looking close enough on the back of Isma? You bet he is. He's going to try and go for the move, as well as Isma. Down the inside and towards Stowe he goes. The Alfa Romeo commits the move, trying to go for the lead of the race. The Aston Martin and the Alfa Romeo side by side, coming out of Stowe, but you still hangs on. There is a dive into the pit lane. Modesto was in, Will LG is in. So 5th and 6th into the pit lane, and actually, why not? Because they're going to just get ingrained in the DRS train. But 20 laps on a set of mediums, they're going to be cooked by the end.
They will be cooked, yeah, but I think in terms of percentage where they should be fine. I think they'll be able to get the mediums to the end from this point in the race. Smart move, though, from Modesto to come in now, because the top 4 are starting to fight. He doesn't want to waste time sitting behind them as they start to battle. He wants to come in now so that while they're battling, he can capitalise on them. That could be really good for his races. Duncan, yet again, has got a brilliant run through Aintree and down the Wellington Straight. He's using up that ERS, but I don't think he's close enough to Wouters this time to try that same dive, although, again, he's so late on the brakes into Brooklands. That is incredible that he's braking that late for the corner and nearly wiping out the Mercedes in front. Doesn't do so, but he's going to be a real... If anyone comes up against Duncan for a move at Brooklands, no one stands a chance. Duncan's breaking 10 or 15 metres later than anybody else.
Yeah, I think everyone can take now lessons from Duncan's breaking point in towards Brooklyn. Certainly I can, because I normally break around the 150-metre board to try and get the car turned in towards Brooklyn. That is no joke, by the way. Use leads the way, Isma at second, Magdas in third, Duncan in fourth, and because Will LG and Modesto have came out in 15th and 16th position, they're behind Suku, actually, which will help them along quite neatly, in fact. Duncan on the back of Wouters, I don't think is close enough. Is Isma going to try and make the move for the lead of the race? No, he stays in behind. But what is the reaction going to be? Is Baraka's going side by side with Ogiano in towards Stowe, just in behind? Are these guys now going to pit in? Yes, Ogiano is into the pit, and actually Baraka folds him in. Isma and Duncan also into the top two stay out.
Yeah, the top two stay out. That was a really late call from Isma as well. I think he was just going to do the opposite to you. So you stayed out, and at the last moment, Isma dived into the pit lane. So be interested to see where they come out relative to Modesto in this race. Of course, Suku's car was in AI mode, so that's not held up Modesto or Bill G in this race, which is good to see. Where does Modesto come out relative to the drivers around him? At the pit lane they come. Isma still ahead of Duncan, and then out comes Ogiano just ahead of Baraka, and Dutch Missile, that was the other driver that came in as well. Around the final corner comes Modesto, as out of the pit lane comes his teammate. It's going to be fairly close, I would say, as they come through turn one. Modesto through turn one now, going to be the inside for turn two, and I think he's jumped Duncan. Yes, he has. He just about does it. Duncan, though, a dive down the inside. No. That was never going to work. He tried another dive move. That one was a day late and $1 short. Oh, it's off the road in the background. Willow G's gone off completely on his own there and just darts back on screen. But Duncan tried it that time around, tried the dive bomb move, and Modesto, rightly to his name, was having absolutely none of it. And Duncan's just spun himself out of a potential podium.
Yeah, such a shame, to be honest. They are going to have an AI in their area as well, so obviously Duncan tried to make that move. It was a bit optimistic, if I've got to be honest, from Duncan. He knows better. He knows well and truly better than to try and make a dive bomb down the inside line. The gap was always going to close down in towards Brooklands, and he didn't make the move, or actually down in towards that turn 3, but he didn't make the move stick, and that's why he is down there in 15th position. He is going to get a bit of DRS, though, from that AI car of Suku. Yusto into the pit lane, White is also in, and Risa, the soft compound tyres are in. It's only Gustav that's actually staying out on that sort of soft compound tyre. He now inherits the lead of the race. TTG Hadler in second, Grimbles in third. Team Mentalism currently looking third and fourth, but of course the pit stop still to come. Eust and Modesto and Isma. This is going to be quite close. I think Eust is going to get out ahead, maybe quite comfortably, as we now try and ride on board with Eust instead of stay in his pit box. We're on board with Isma. He's now coming around club at the final corner. Looking at the mini-map, I think he's going to be well ahead. I think Wouters and Risa could also filter in this as well. And Isma could be side by side with Wouters coming out the pit lane. Eust is there, he's ahead of Wouters, and Modesto and Wouters are side by side of Modesto. Unlike what Duncan did just a lap ago, Wouters backs out of that and he remains in behind Modesto.
Yeah, smart move there from Wouters back out of it as Reese's crashed. Where on earth is that? Is that coming out? Turn
safety car.
Wow, safety car's come out, and that has played beautifully into Gustav's hands. That's exactly why Gustav has stayed out, so that we can get a safety car. He can come in and lose less time in the pit lane compared to the other people around him. What this hasn't done is helped any of those on the alternate strategy. This is too early to come in and put a set of soft compound tyres on, unless you are a magician and saving your tyres. So Hadler, Grimbos, Johan and Azzy are really a bit of a pickle here, unfortunately. That whole pit stop phase, though, was worked out beautifully for FVR. Isma now second in a net second position, and Modesto in a net third position. So a double podium could be on for FVR if they can hold on to it.
Yeah, Gustav as well. He's now into the pit lane. All the guys on the side of mediums going to come in. Yes, Hadler's in, Grimbles is in, Johan is in. Or is Johan coming into the pit lane? He hasn't reached the pit lane. Yes, and Assy is also into the pit lane. I'm actually a bit surprised that the guys in the set, older set of mediums have not stayed out to try and get that set of soft compound tyres later on in this race, especially if there is another safety car, of course, later on in this race. Lap 10 out of 26, Gustav possibly could be in the net lead of the race. Everyone having to stick to their delta time. Gustav is out of his pit box. Eust obviously sticking to his delta time. This could be quite close on pit lane exit. I think Gustav might just do this, you know.
It's going to be close. It's going to be very close. The delta, I think, is going to go for Eust when he crosses the start-finish line. And there you go. He's flat out across the line. Gustav is well ahead. Yeah. Wow. That has played perfectly for ET8 and for Gustav. That is exactly why he stayed out an extra lap, is to hope for that sort of safety car. It's come, and he's now in the lead of this race from 13th on the grid, if I remember correctly. So that is beautiful for Gustav now, and a massive opportunity now for ET8 to do something in this race and get themselves a bit further up in the standings as well. So Gustav leads. Hadler's come out in 6th, right behind his teammate, so that will work quite nicely for TTG, because now Hadler can kind of act a little bit as a roadblock for the drivers behind and hold some of those up and secure Wout as a top 5 in this race. Grimbos is going to be one to watch out for as well. He's now 8th, and he is on a set of soft compound tyres. He's going to be very fast once the safety car goes in.
He is, but he is going to be embodied really in that DRS train, so that is going to be the significant disadvantage for Grimbos down there in 8th position. There's the position changes, by the way, from this safety car. Gustav up 13 positions, started 14th on the grid, not 13th, and he's gained an extra position as a result. So Gustav now P1, and to be honest, he rightfully deserves that, because the safety cars came out in a perfect position for the ET8 man, but he has got the Flying Dutchman in behind in use. So use, I think, could try and outpace Gustav, but if Gustav gets a really good safety car restart here, good safety car, I think it's going to be at maybe 2 more laps. Suku's AI is going to play some sort of involvement in this as well. He's down there in 12th position. But as we get back to the tyre screen, everyone pretty much on a set of mediums. Hadler, interestingly, as you said, on a set of hard compounded tyres. Johan and Nassi on a set of hards. They feel somewhat that something could happen later in the race. Maybe a little bit of rain. I know I'm wishful thinking with this, but maybe a little bit of rain, and then they transition, because obviously the hards are going to be better in my conditions. I'm trying to be absolutely mad, so just ratify me now in the comment section.
I'll ratify you now, I do want. I think it's gonna be it's difficult. I think the only reason Hadler's gone for the hards, I think, is simply because he didn't think the softs would get to the end. As Johan has dived into the pit lane, interestingly. So what he's done is gone for the hards, and then it's going to come back into the pit lane and probably put another set of mediums on to take him to the end. So that's a smart move from Johan, and a smart move from Team Mentalism as well, because they've now split their strategy. So if it doesn't go Grimbo's way and he can't get the softs to the end of the race if there's no safety cars, they've at least got Johan somewhat in there as well to try and pick up the pieces. So that's smart from Team Mentalism. Actually, Johan's gone for the softs. Never mind. He's done completely the opposite of what I thought he'd do. He's gone for the softs. So, to be fair, the safety car looks like it's going to stay out at least for this lap. It could stay out for another lap, although by the looks of things, I think it'll be coming in at the end of this lap. 15 laps on the set of softs, it's not impossible.
It isn't impossible. I've seen 15 laps being done around here quite comfortably. I think IFR Jensen, if I'm not mistaken, in LOE Division 1 did that strategy, if I'm not mistaken. I see him in the comments section. Hopefully he will confirm that for us in this. Gustav though leading the way. Houston second, Isma in third. This really plays into the hands of the likes of the FVR team. 3rd and 4th, TTG, 5th and 6th. Grimbos is 8th position. They were well down the field. Johan obviously is pitted in down in 19th position. But Grimbos was somewhere like 17th or 18th, I think. So Grimbos has really came about on that set of soft compounded tyre. He is going to be the quickest man, theoretically, out on track. But those guys on a set of warmer mediums, Modesto, Isma, certainly on 2-3 lap hold mediums, 4 lap hold as we get to the end of this safety car, they're going to be slightly fresher in terms of their tyre wear, while Grimbos has got to warm those tyres up.
Yeah, he's got to. And the problem as well for Grimbo is he's got Orgiano in front on a relatively fresh set of mediums, and then Hadler on the hards. Hadler here could be a real roadblock for these drivers behind. Grimbos, if he wants to make this soft strategy work and he wants to get the best out of it, he's got to get past Orgiano and Hadler as quickly as he possibly can. He's got to get those moves done so he can get into 6th place and then nurse those softs to the end. If he's stuck in the pack, the dirty air won't help him and he could plummet at the end of the race.
Safety car coming in this lap, and Gustav is the virtual Bernd Marlander. He is the virtual safety car at this stage. Yus there in 2nd position, and Yus has got to literally stick like super glue to the back of Gustav, and Gustav is just trying to toy with the pace. He's trying to speed it up, slow it down. It could cause a few little problems in behind. Hadler is keeping a big gap in behind him, around 1.2 seconds, which is ideal for everyone in behind him, but we better go racing as Gustav now says go. I wish we had better camera angles than what we're actually seeing now coming through the final corners at Club, but Gustav now leads the way. On to lap 12 we go. Gustav leads. Houston second. Isma in third. Really good start from the top 5. Hadler has been caught a little bit napping. He's on that sort of hard compounded tyres. He's going to come under pressure from Orgiano. Gets a little bit squirrely as well coming out of Abian Farm. And now Orgiano down the inside line for the Shizou man. Absolutely sails on by. Grimbo's in behind as well. Everyone struck her like a little bit of a washing line, to be honest. Grimbo's now right on the back of Orgiano. The side-by-side action further down. Yukitra and Suku fighting side-by-side. I think Suku still at AI, of course. He is dropping down the positions, but here comes Grimbos now for Team Mentalism down the inside line on a set of soft combated tyres. Hadler has got literally literally no response on that to the hard, and Grimbles is through, and he's into 7th. And this is the problem for Hadler. He's on that to the hard compound of tyres. He's the one that is going to be struggling now in terms of the temperature. They're not going to come online until at least lap 20.
Yeah, he's got to wait until the end of the race for the hards to really start levelling out with the mediums. The mediums are fine in terms of tyre wear to the end of the race. They're not going to have any problems. So at this point, Hadler's just got to hope and pray that he can hold on. At this point in the race, as Will all over the back of Dutch Missile going into Maggots and Beckett's, but not quite finding a way through and up into the top 10. So stays in 11th place for the time being. Ogiano and Grimbos. Oh, yeah,
He's used for the race lead. He goes to the inside line in towards Stowe. Sorry to cut you off, Aiden. As used, dives it down the inside line. Lovely stuff by the Aston Martin. He is third. He's into the lead of the race. Gustav in second. Isma in third. Lovely stuff there by Hughes. He had to try and commit the move. He is the quickest guy on the grid by far. Duncan there, down in 13. He's the quickest man on the set of mediums, you could argue as well. But Hughes now through. He is going to absolutely fly. As proven, fastest up the race. Better, though, by Ogiano on a 28.7. Isma is all over the back of Gustav. And Gustav's tyres, he doesn't look like he's got them warmed up. And now Isma is going to send it down the inside line towards Village again. Wish the camera angles were a little bit better. There's a little bit of side-by-side action. Gustav just about holds on, and Isma actually gets caught on the sausage curb. So Gustav stays in second for now.
Yeah, for now he stays in second. He looks like he could have got a run there onto the Wellington straight, but it's not quite close enough for Brooklyn. The braking zone's not deep enough, unfortunately. I think Isma's desperately trying to get this move done before Hughes breaks DRS, which he's very close to doing. So Isma trying to get it done so that Hughes doesn't get up the road, but by the looks of things, I think he might just get stuck behind the ETH drive at this point of the race. He's using a lot of ERS to try and get to the back of the AlphaTauri as well. And this is now starting to allow Ogiano and Grimbos to get back in this queue. So it's now looking like a 7-way train at the moment as Grimbos big under Sith Cox there. Just about gets away with it.
No way.
Oh, here goes Baraka down the inside. That's not enough room. He's going to go around the outside. Can he get the move done? Yes, he can. Wow. Brilliant move from Baraka. Handler just didn't have the grip to hold on, and Baraka gets the move done, and now Dutch Missile's going to sail on by around the outside.
Yeah, Dutch Missile going to get through as well, but Isma's up to second, crucially, so the FER man is up to second. Gustav clearly not getting those tyres online. Hadler nearly went into the back of Dutch Missile. I'm not sure if there was a little bit of contact there, possibly, but now on that to the hard, he's really beginning to struggle. Dutch Missile is through, Baraka is through. Lovely move. There is only so many drivers that can perform an outside move coming through Maggots and Beckett's. You've got to have, quite literally, balls of steel going around there. Beautiful move by Baraka. Dutch Missile following through as well. They're up into P8 and 9 respectively. Will LG caught in a bit of a draft coming through Avian Farm. Now on the inside line, the McLaren dives it down the inside out of the Mercedes, and Hadler is literally just like a rolling roadblock at this stage. Yukita in behind as well. Hadler just about hangs on for 11, but now DRS is enabled. Hughes leading the way, Isma in second, Gustav in third, and now Yukita all over the back of Hadler. Hadler is just like a rolling roadblock again at this stage, and Yukita all over the back of him as he makes a mistake in towards Brooklyn and now through Luffield, going side by side. Can the Red Bull find the traction on the outside of Luffield? Tries to go all the way around the outside, and again you've got to try and have balls of steel, and he has got balls of steel, and Yukita is through, and he's into 11th.
Yeah, no chance Hadler could really hold on to that. Hadler's just proving those hards are not working. He's just got no pace. He started restarted this race in 6th, and within 3 laps he's dropped to 12th. He's just falling through the field at this point of the race. The hards are not working, and now Duncan is the next person to have a go at him in the Aston Martin, and like you mentioned, Duncan incredibly fast. This should be an easy move, and look at the run that he's got down towards Stowe. Nothing Hadler can do. Duncan breezes past in a straight line. Hadler down now into 13th place with his fellow hard one of Azzy now right behind him as well. Dino there on the softs looking pretty racy. Pat Yohan as well. Iker is right there as well. So it's not out of the question. Hadler could drop right to the back of the field here, but what Hadler has done has split the field pretty much in half. The top 7 have got away at the front of the field, and Baraka's now 2.5 seconds back in 8th.
Yeah, and Baraka's going to be stuck in a bit of no man's land as well. He's got Dutch Missile and Will LG all over the back of him. Lap 15 out of 26. Hughes has absolutely exploded away. 1.3 seconds the gap now to Isma. Gustav there in third. Wouters is all over the back of Modesto. I don't think Modesto's going to be close enough to try and have a run on Gustav, but Wouters crucially was, and Grimbos actually is going to the inside line in towards Brooklyn on Ogiano. Down the inside line, on a set of soft compounded tyres. Ogiano is still there on the inside line now for Luffield, as he now tries to go all the way around the outside again with the traction. Is he going to go outside of Cops possibly? No, I think he's just going to wait maybe for the DRS. There is a yellow flag out on track, and I think that was a Ferrari spinning a Pat.
Yeah, Pat spinning, I think, completely on his own by the looks of things. I don't think there was any contact for the IFR man, so he drops to the back of the field, and his miserable race, unfortunately, continues. There was a bit of contact there as well between Grimbos and Ogiano in Brooklyn, so that's now separated them from the lead pack. So they're now in a bit of no man's land on their own in 6th and 7th. So that could have now, look at the speed Grimbo's got in a straight line down the inside. Nothing Ogiano can do, and Grimbo's breezes on up into 6th place. But him on the soft compound tires could start to close in on the drivers in front as Will LG around the outside of Dutch Missile, and so they're still side by side as they run down in towards Vaden Club. Dutch Missile will have the outside line. He's trying to squeeze him to the apex. Will LG forcing his way through and squeezing him to the apex now, and just about Will LG gets the move done around the outside, and Nikita is going to try and capitalise as well, but he's not quite close enough. But look at Duncan though, down the inside of Abby. If he can get the move done, he backs out of it at the last moment. He holds on to 12th. Doesn't go for the move. He's going to go for the move again at Farm down the inside of the Red Bull. It's going to be late on the brakes. There's more contact. Again, there's contact there. He doesn't get the move done. He has to stay in 12th, but He runs wide at the loop, and Duncan down the inside for Aintree. I'm sure this is going to be moved on and coming down towards Brooklands. We know how good Duncan is on the brakes here. Down towards the corner, Duncan is going to be late on the brakes. Yeah, nothing Nikita can do. Duncan sails on past. Is up into 11th place.
Plenty of hand of rages and all of that as well. Plenty of wheel banging. That's what we like. This is Formula 1 at its absolute finest on the sim racing environment. Youth leads the way. Isma in second. Gustav in third. Looking further up the field. Grimbles, by the way, got overtaken by Ogiano and all of that. So Ogiano back through and he's into sixth. Grimbles there in seventh. And they're really fighting a losing battle as well. They're 2.1 seconds behind the DRS train of Isma all the way down pretty much to Wouters. And Wouters now on the back of Modesto. Modesto, in fact, is going to try and get Gustav now down and towards Stowe. Is he going to try and commit the move? No, as he actually gets caught actually on the curb coming outside and had a little bit of a slide, lost a little bit of time. Grimbles is back through now into sixth position. Duncan and Dutch Missile are going side by side. I really don't know where to turn. These camera angles as well are not really giving me the greatest. Duncan down the inside line. He is absolutely fed up, I think, Duncan. He's been treated, I think, wrongly in this race. He's up into P10 now, but Duncan, after that early mistake that he made by himself, he's there in P10. He is learning from his lessons, but he's getting a move on, which is important.
Yeah, important. He's getting the move on. Like you say, Yukita trying to get the move done on Dutch Missile there, not quite able to follow suit, so he'll stay in 12th place for the time being. But yeah, Duncan, a man on a mission at the moment, trying to recover from that early mistake. He's just outside of range. Well, he's actually just inside of DRS range, actually, to Will, so he's been able to get that on the back.
Oh, Ike's gone for a spin! Ike's gone for a spin right on the back of Johan and was trying to overtake. There's a reset to track and all of that as well. Unfortunately for him, that was caught on stream. So Ike now down in 17th. Suku and Pat both in as well. Suku's AI, of course, in. Pat is in. He's still continuing on, which is important, of course. All of these guys score points for their teams, which is important. Youth leads the way. Isma in second, Gustav in third. Ike, luckily, I don't think has got any damage, but he tried a really good run coming out of Aintree, right into the back of Johan, sent him spinning.
Yeah, it's a shame for Ike. It's been a bit of a baptism of fire, unfortunately, for the Tier 10 man. He's not had a good race at all so far. It's been a bit of a shocker, sadly. Just looking back at the front of the field, by the way, Isma, I think in Isma's desperation to get past Gustav as quickly as he could and trying to get him before the DRS came into play, has burnt all of his DRS. He's burnt all of his DRS in that battle. So Use isn't derating and he can still pull away. Isma is derating, which means that he's faster than Gustav in the middle sector, but because he's derating, he's just getting caught again in a straight line, and Gustav is able to stay within DRS range because of that. So Isma, in effect, in his desperation to get past Gustav as quickly as he could, is ending up costing himself time to use in front, and is costing his teammate a chance of overtaking Gustav for third.
Yeah, definitely. Grimbles, though, in behind. 2.6 seconds. The gap is extending out around 5/10 laps. So Grimbles is not really impacting, even though he's on a fresh set of soft compound tyres. He's in his own battle with Ogiano, and that's why, therefore, they're not getting involved in the battle. Will LG, by the way, ran massively wide. I think it was coming out through in towards Stowe, where he ran massively wide, rejoined track, and Duncan is now right on the back of him as a result. I saw that just on stream. Will LG now 9th, still in 9th. Duncan there in 10th. Up further up the field, as you'd say, though, Modesto right on the back of Gustav. Gustav again extending, coming through track limit, coming through cops, extending the track limit. 18 out of 26 laps done. Youth leads the way, Isma second, Gustav in third. And these guys are really excelling out on track. And Modesto now on the back of Gustav. Has he got the run? Possibly down in towards Stowe to try and get the move done. I don't think he's close enough, and the Spaniard is going to have to wait in behind for at least one more lap. But Gustav looks, honestly, as if he's going to be overtaken sooner rather than later, with Duncan on the back of Will LG and Nikita through on Dutch Missile.
Yeah, it's difficult for Gustav. He's actually doing a really solid job in third place, and like I mentioned, with Isma burning all of his DRS so early on, Isma can't pull away. He can't physically pull away because of the lack of DRS he's got. So all Gustav needs to do is kind of stick doing what he's doing now, sticking close enough to Isma's DRS range where he can get the toe and the DRS and keep just ahead of Modesto. Modesto, you can see in the corners, is so much faster, but the Alfa Romeo in the queue of cars in the DRS train just isn't fast enough in a straight line to impact Gustav. So even with the DRS advantage that Modesto has at this point in the race as well, so nothing really Modesto can do will be enough, as there's a yellow flag further down. That is EK again that's gone for another spin. As further down, Duncan going for a move on Will LG. This time around, Will LG is going to have the inside line for Luffers, trying to force Duncan out wide on the exit of the corner. There's almost contact between the pair of them. They just about get away with it. Will LG leaves just enough room on the exit of the corner. Duncan's going to try and go around the outside of Cops. No room there at all. He has to sit in behind the McLaren for the time being. Close battling, aggressive defending for Will LG right on the line, but he just holds on to ninth.
Dino's on the outside on a Dutch missile, nearly in towards Maggots and Beckett as well. He tried to get the move done, has to stay in behind for now. Modesto's all over the back of Gustav, and now this time around, is he going to go for the movement? Again, he seems to get close, but he's not close enough. Duncan in behind as well, right on the back of Will LG, slipstreaming. They're going to catch as well, but Raka into this. Duncan all the way around the outside of Stowe. Can he get the move done? Just about. Will LG is there. Modesto now through, and he's into third, so he's overtaking Gustav in towards Vale, so he gets the job done. Duncan and Will LG are still fighting side by side, and Duncan surely going to come out on top this time. Now he does. He's finally ahead. Duncan, it's only took him about 4 or 5 laps to get ahead of Will LG. Will LG with a stoic defence, but Duncan is now through, and he's into 9th position, and now he's going to try and make his way through now on Baraka, and Baraka on 2-lap older tyres surely is probably going to be a sitting duck, as Gustav is going to run on the back of Modesto down in towards Brooklands. Again, not quite close enough. Hughes leads the way, 2.4 seconds. The only thing that is stopping Hughes from pulling away even further, a big old DRS train in behind.
Yeah, that's the thing at the moment, isn't it? Isma's not fast enough to keep up with Hughes. Hughes just continues to pull away. I wonder if the FVR drivers are going to swap positions here. Modesto has more ERS. We don't know what his raw speed is like, but at this point of the race, he seems in a better place than his teammates. So I wonder if they're going to swap places, and maybe Modesto can try and close in on Hughes for the lead of this race. It's going to be a tall order though, because both VSR drivers at the moment are flying. Duncan on the back of Baraka now is already down to 4/10. Baraka's not within DRS range of Boggiano in front, so I think he is going to be a sitting duck here as Duncan turns his DRS on. There you go, the FVR drivers do swap places in towards Stowe. Modesto up into second place. It's a 2.5 second gap. Can he close in? Baraka defending all the way down the inside up towards Stowe. The straight not quite long enough for Duncan to make the move. He's going to have to sit in behind for the time being. But I do think this move is inevitable.
Yeah, ideally from Duncan's perspective, you've got to be around 2.5 tenths behind coming out of Chapel on the run down in towards Stowe to try and get any sort of chance of getting the move done. Baraka is barely within slipstream range of Ogiano as well, so this is going to help Duncan along slightly as long as he commits the move in a clean manner. Of course, we've seen his desperation earlier on coming out the pit lane where he tried to go down the inside line. It didn't work, and that was of Pat, I think, he made contact with. White's now going to go side by side with Gustav down in towards Brooklands, and Mercedes is on the inside line, and the AlphaTauri has got to remain wary now on his inside line because they're going side by side. Now through Brooklands, in towards Luffield. Hughes leads the way, Modesto in second, Isma in third. Gustav has a poor run coming out of Luffield now. Wouters has got to try and use up the remaining ERS on the run down in towards Cops, and both of them are actually catching Isma and all of this as well, but he has to stick in behind for now. Wouters doing a phenomenal job in 5th position, and he's now right on the back of Gustav, and Gustav had a little bit of a sketchy moment coming out of Cops, just about kept the car on a straight line, and Wouters is still all over the back of him, but they're pulled now 4 seconds clear of Grimbos.
Yeah, Grimbos just can't keep up at this point in the race. This is where the softs are going to start going off at this point. He's doing a good job of holding Ogiano off, is Grimbos. He's doing a solid job, but Ogiano's there, Baraka's behind, Duncan's coming as well. Duncan going for another run up towards Stowe, a bit closer this time around, breaks late around the outside, but Baraka, I think, just at far enough ahead to hold on to the place. Duncan, though, is going to go for the outside line into Vale. He's squeezed on the curve. There's a little bit of contact between the pair of them. He'll be on the inside for Club, and he cuts the corner and gets a time penalty for it. He's still on the inside for the final corner. He makes contact. Oh, and he's into
safety
the wall.
Car.
Yeah, I don't know if that is a safety car yet. Nothing's come out, I don't think. It looks like we might just get away with it. Never
Safety
mind,
car.
there we go. Yeah. Wow. Okay, that has flipped it on his head. And again, we have seen it again. Duncan, in his desperation to try and get the move done as quickly as he can, suck it down the inside and just understeered into the side of the WOR car. Nothing Baraka did wrong there, in my opinion. Duncan just, again, too optimistic, and he throws it away.
it's hard fighting that got aggressive, if I've got to be honest. And Duncan, I think, in his desperation, he was a little bit peed off, if I've got to be honest, from that incident with Pat earlier on in the race. And that's why I think that built-up frustration has got to him. It's caused a safety car. We're only going to get, I think, 2 laps worth of racing. So the DRS is not going to be enabled for the rest of this race, it seems. Pat is in the pit lane. Suku and Ika might be back into the pit lane as well. However, what do these guys do? Surely everyone's pretty much going to stay out for the remaining 4 laps of this race.
Yeah, I think we've already seen in this race it's so difficult to overtake when you're in a queue that it's not worth pitting at this point in the race unless you are someone like Hadler or Azzy. They're on the hards. Those hards are slow, to say the least. I mean, Hadler and Azzy have not had the pace at this point in the race on those tyres. It makes sense for them to come in. They're only going to use out to Yon, and I wouldn't be surprised if Yon's in for a fresh set of softs, considering how old they are. So they may as well come in and try something a little bit different. It's worth it. None of the leaders, though, I expect to come in, and that is the case. None of them have come in. What this has done, though, in Duncan's crash, has completely wiped out the lead that used to have, and now the FER drivers are right on the back of them.
Nikita in, Dutch Missile in, Hadler in, Assy stays out, interestingly. So 3 guys in, Nikita, Dutch Missile, Hadler. Further down the field, they realise that Johan is probably going to pit in and behind them as well. They've got a minute's gap to come out in front of, so they're going to stay 12th, 13th, 14th and 15th in some way out on track. Usually to way Modesto in second, Isper in third. And some of the comments, by the way, coming through about the Duncan incident, he did push him to some extent, but honestly, it was just desperation, I think, at the end of the day, and that's why Duncan out of the race. A little bit of wheel contact, you know what the physics are like on this game as well, when a car makes side-by-side contact, coming through club corner as well, through a curved corner, coming through turn 18. Just all adds up to the end. The stewards will definitely have a look at that. It is not going to go unnoticed whatsoever. So Duncan, not sure if he's going to get a penalty, but it's probably unfair for us to comment on what he might get. Let's leave it to the stewards.
Yeah, it's kind of... We can always give our opinion on the incident, but of course we're not the stewards at the end of the day. I think from our side of things, it was aggressive, definitely on both sides coming up to that point, but from what I saw in that final corner, it did just look like Duncan unfortunately just didn't have the grip on the inside line and just plain understeered, unfortunately, into the side of the WR car. Nothing really, I think, Bracket in that incident did wrong. We'll wait and see what the stewards think about it and what the drivers have to say about it as well, but yeah, that's a shame for VSR. It's not, the last 2 rounds hasn't really gone their way so far. Eustace is still in the lead of the race, but the other driver is now out of this one, and Eustace's lead that he did have, which was up to 3 seconds, is now completely gone. So now it's up to FER. Do they solidify a second and third place finish, a double podium, and get the points and jump up into third in the championship? Or does Modesto try and go for this win? It's going to be difficult to try and go for the win over Eustace, who's been so fast all of this race, but a win's there on the line. FER could get their first win of the season.
I think if I was the team boss of FER at this stage, I'd be wanting to consolidate that second and third position. I think Eustace is too quick for the guys, if I've got to be honest. I think Eustace is going to be too quick off the start. You know what his starts are like. We've seen it before in the PSGL Esports Cup event. You know what his starts are like. So Modesto has got to try and react as quick as used, but got to be on the ball at the same time. And that is what's going to take the difference. This is what separates the real good drivers from the ordinary drivers. And I think Modesto, not calling him an ordinary driver whatsoever, he's basically got to stick to the back wing of Eustace like super glue. And Eustace, honestly, has got to try and master Modesto. He's got to outthink basically the Spaniard in behind. But if I was the FER team boss, I'd be trying to consolidate that second and third, because I'll know Gustav, he's on 2-lap younger tyres and 3-lap younger tyres in Modesto's case, but he hasn't got the pace on that set of mediums. Wouters arguably doesn't either, so you may as well try and consolidate that second and third position, especially so because there's going to be no DRS for the remaining of this race. Yeah,
it's going to be a big risk if they go for a move on Eustace, and I think they're going to have to hope for a mistake that they can capitalise on, maybe at the safety car restart if Eustace it's a poor reaction and Modesto's close enough. But yeah, like you say, consolidation for FER for a second, third place finish would be their best result of the season so far, and would put them third in the standings. And considering how bad of a race OP have had so far, it could put them right in the running for second. So yeah, second and third could be massive for FER's season going as we're now into the second half of it. So yeah, I tend to agree with you that solidifying that second and third would be the best way to go. In behind, I think it's going to be difficult to see really much position gain inside the top 10. We've got to keep an eye out though for Hadler and Dutch Missile. I'm surprised Azzy stayed out. I think he's going to be a sitting duck at this restart for those soft runners behind. It's how far the likes of Dutch Missile and Hadler can get in 2 laps, if they can get any higher than 10th place in this race, and whether Grimbos has got any pace left in those softs to try and attack the drivers in front.
Yeah, definitely. I think Grimbles is probably the one to look at. He's on that set of soft compound tyres. Safety car in this lap. So, Used is that virtual Burma Islander once again. He is the virtual safety car. There is the view on board with him, and there is the view on board with Modesto. You can see, trying to get heat into the tyres. Modesto pretty much making me dizzy, if I'm going to be honest. So I'm going to come off that camera angle. Modesto on the back of Used. He has got to stick like superglue to the back of Used, or does he realise that Used is probably too quick for him to try and keep up? It depends on this restart. He's 7/10 off him, though. He's 7/10 off him. He needs to be 2/10 off him, ideally, to try and get a run, maybe down in towards turn 4, down in towards the village section. So Used has got to be right on the ball, and he absolutely outguns Modesto underneath the safety car restart. Used leads the way. Modesto, of course, no overtaking until the yellow flags are gone. Used does lead the way, though. Modesto in second, and Modesto has not reacted, so that, I think, solidifies what we've just said. Gustav has had a really poor restart as well. Now Wouters is down the inside line in towards Abbey and Farm, and this could get quite aggressive from them both. Gustav in fourth, Wouters in fifth, and now Grimbles and Ogiano are going to go side by side as well, neatly in towards Abbey and Farm, through into the village section, and then into the loop. Used leads the way. Down the inside, Will LG tries to get the move done, and Baraka, the Spaniard, is through, and Ogiano, I think, spun on the curb.
No, he tried to go for the dive bomb move on the inside of Grimbos, and just almost in similar fashion to Duncan, just understood to the side of him, and that's him round. So again, another race that's gone for Jesus. What a disaster that is. From a pretty solid top 10 for Ogiano, is now down at the very back of the field with his teammates. So Shizu, another one in that battle for third, that are losing points here as Care falls down the field. And that's a yellow flag. He's spun, I think, as well. I think maybe with contact from the Ferrari of Pat. So again, Pat's race just not going his way. Keeping an eye on Dutch Missile, but Dutch Missile's not been able to pass, has he?
Ika leaves the session as well. We can understand his frustration, but points are on the line. 18th position. Get your driver back in the lobby. You're going to be picking up, 3 points for your driver? 3 points could separate anything at this stage. Used leads the way. Modesto in second. Isma in third. And now Wouters right on the back of Gustav. Trying to get the move done further down the field as well. Dutch Missile on the back of Assi. These guys on a fresh set of softs are not making any impact whatsoever because they haven't got DRS, and that is why they are struggling to try and get through this DRS train, and pretty much expands all the way up to Gustav, who's trying to defend off Wouters. Final lap of the race here in Britain. Used leads the way. Modesto in second. Isma in third. Gustav in fourth. Surely it's going to be the battle of fourth that we've got to keep an eye on, because it looks like we've got our 1, 2, 3 in VSR Used, Modesto and Isma.
Yeah, and look at Wouters around the outside here of Village to the inside of the loop. Can he get it done? I think he can.
What a move.
If he gets the move, but Gustav's going to have the run around the outside of the loop. They're going to be side by side through entry, hopefully leave enough space for each other. They do as they run down towards Brooklyn, down the Wellington straight. It's going to be Wouters on the inside, but Gustav has a faster car in a straight line, and Wouters sends it deep on the brakes. Gustav is going to try and hold it around the outside. They still give each other room. This is great racing. They're almost into the side of each other through Lovefield. Wouters around the outside should have the better run off the corner, but Gustav equally as good. They're still side by side.
And behind.
Yeah, they're side by side further behind as well. Baraka and Grimbo side by side into Cops. Down the inside, Gustav has the line. There's a little bit of contact. He loses the rear of the car. Down the inside goes Baraka and Grimbo's. They're going to breeze past as well. Gustav, in his ambition to try and hold it. Will LG into the back of him as well. He's around. Dino's up into 8th position. I think in Gustav's desperation to hold it down the inside, he just kind of lost sight of what was at stake, and he's lost 2 places in the process.
Yeah, Will LG was down the inside of Baraka. He spun. They made contact. Used, however, coming around the final couple of corners. Valen Club to go. It is the Flying Dutchman excelling once again here in Britain. Used around the final corner to win for VSR in Britain. Modesto and Isma, however, outscore VSR. Second and third. Dutch Missile has had a bit of contact further down the field. Wouters across the line to finish in fourth. Baraka in fifth. Grimbo's in sixth. Gustav in seventh in the end. Disappointing. Dino in eighth. Hadler up to ninth. Johan in 10th. There's all sorts of carnage down the field. Nikita in 11th, Dutch Missile in 12th, will run you through the rest of the grid. What a race here in Britain at the Silverstone International Circuit. Who knew that Silverstone could deliver in the racing? Driver of the day, what about the in-game fans? Gary Donegan? Grimbos.
Yeah, it's, yeah. You predicted it at the start of the race, didn't you? That's a brilliant celebration, by the way. Yeah, you predicted it at the very start of the race, didn't you? It was a bit of a slow burner, but as soon as the safety car came out, the race completely flipped on its head. That was a brilliant race, and as we predicted, yet again, Silverstone provides amazing racing.
It does. Driving standards, of course, might have to have a look at. Stewards' reports certainly going to be interesting as well. We'll bring you up to date, of course, next week as we go to Portimao next week, and then to Imola the week after that on the 19th and the 26th of November. However, we'll run you through the grid order. Used out on top, completes a Grand Slam, pole position, fastest lap, And the race win for Hughes. Modesto and Isma, I've got to applaud them, to be honest. FVR, second and third, best result of the season by far. And an absolutely amazing performance. Even keep up with Hughes in the final couple of laps was impressive. Wouters there in fourth. The German did a phenomenal job for TTG. Who did I say could do well? TTG. Listen to me. Baraka in fifth. Grimbles in sixth. Gustav in seventh. Dino in eighth. Hadler in ninth. Johan off the top 10. Grimbles, by the way, 17th up to sixth. That's why he got the fan voted driver of the day. Nikita in 11th. Dutch Missile in 12th. Asi 13th. Pat in 14th. Ogiano in 15th. Will LG in 16th. Suku's AI didn't finish under his own accord. Neither did Care. So they both finished 17th and 18th. And I don't think, because they weren't in control of their car, they don't pick up their points for their team, which is disappointing. So only the top 16 will get points for their teams. As I say, Duncan DNFing, of course, goes in that second safety car, and Risa, of course, out of the race, goes in that first safety car. What a race, though, in Britain. You start on top, Modesto in second, Isma in third. Who on earth, Mr. Aidan Carter, is your driver of the day?
Oh, it's an interesting one, isn't it? I think there's a few drivers in there that could be up for driver of the day. I don't want to be the boring one and go for you, so I'm going to go for somebody else. I'm going to say I think Grimbo's did a brilliant job. I think it's fair to say for Team Mentalism, they've kind of flown a little bit under the radar so far this season. They've not been bad by any stretch of the mean, but they've not quite had the pace to battle with the top 5 teams. So to get that kind of result, especially on a very weird strategy, let's say, of taking the soft 16 laps and getting a P6 finish out of it, was a brilliant result. So I'm going to give it to Grimbo's, just like the game did.
Yeah, got to be honest, I think that strategy really pulled them off, so I'm going to agree with you. I am going to agree with you. Yeah, Grimballs is going to get driver of the day for me. Use, I think, deserves a really good round of applause. And the FER boys drove solid race as well. Modesto and Isma, certainly they are going to be ones to watch, of course, as we go in towards Portimao. Bit of breaking news, by the way, from the real-life F1 world before we finish the stream. Hamilton's car has been referred to the stewards for DRS technical infringement in qualifying from the Brazilian Grand Prix. So the fallout of that, of course, will come eventually. Go on your phones and have a look on Twitter is the best advice I can probably give.
That's going to be interesting to have a look at that one, isn't it? But yeah, like you were saying about FVR, we'll have a look at FVR's season. Their trajectory has just gone up and up this season, hasn't it? They started off so horribly in the first round of the season at Baku, and ever since then they've just been on an upwards trajectory. It'd be good to see them get a win by the end of the season. I think it's definitely on the cards for them.
Yeah, definitely. FER certainly going places. VSR back to their brilliant best as well, with Hughes taking the win. Duncan not so much, of course, DNFing out of the race. Only 1 point score finish for VSR, but they still, of course, hold a very sizable lead going into Portimao. And speaking of Portimao, what can we expect around one of the newest tracks on the F1 calendar? My favourite track to commentate on and to race on.
Yeah, it's great, isn't it? It's a brilliant track, and I mean, hats off to Codemasters for building a brilliant track model. It's probably the best track model on the game at the moment. It's a brilliant track to drive, so much, quite a difficult track to drive, a lot of undulation changes, different strategies can work. It's a brilliant circuit. I love it as well. It's going to be interesting to see. It's one of those tracks where the field spread tends to be a little bit bigger than the likes of Silverstone, I would say. So I think we might see a bit more of a spaced out field. So I'd say that we could see a dominant victory next time out in Portimao. We'll wait and see who it is. But I think that's what we'll see. I think we'll see someone who is in love with the circuit could disappear off at the front of the field.
Mark your bingo cards, I think, for next week. Comments, this is already predicting a big win for somebody, at least, out on track. He's not saying who, which I'm really glad you aren't, because I don't want to put you into that position whatsoever.
Yeah, don't do it. I'm going to jinx them if I do that. So I'm not going to say anything yet.
Definitely not. But of course, we will be back next week for the PSGL Esports Cup event around Portimao, the 19th of November on the calendar, not the 20th as it's shown. That's a Saturday. And of course, we go to Imola the week after that before we go for our final break week of the season. Fantastic racing, of course, enjoyed by all. If you did enjoy tonight and if you enjoyed our commentary, like, comment, subscribe. Check that notification bell, of course, if you're new to the PSGL channel. You can follow me, by the way, on Twitter at ttg_head. And your Twitter is, Mr. Commentalist?
At Carmentalist. Follow me on Twitter. It's simple as that. Nice and easy. At Carmentalist, follow me on Twitter.
We've never done that. I hope we're allowed to do that. I've just thrown it in right at the end of the stream. Anyways, we're going to probably go now before we get kicked off the air by somebody. So until then, until next week, of course, around Portimao, I've been James Head. He has been Aidan Carter. Thank you so much for watching. And until next time, goodbye.